Hey yo, um,
No,
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 no.
no.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Gaming and Propane Accessories podcast.
Yeah, I get that. That's like the reference.
So we got. Sorry if my voice sounds like. Okay. Wow.
Sucking dick joke.
Maybe I'll let you do a little bit more of the talking today. I'm not sure what.
Loser.
Man, my allergies have been killing me recently.
Loser.
Stop calling me a loser.
You have allergies. That makes you a loser by default.
Yeah, sure.
I'm just allergic to medicine. Um,
Yeah, so you might be talking more than me, but we're gonna
well,
be talking about the
yeah.
Steam Deck. That seems pretty epic, and Nintendo not so much. Haha, funny title. But we're gonna be talking about Skyward Sword
Funny.
being cringe, but mostly we're gonna be
Yeah.
talking about amiibos in relation to Skyward Sword. But
As Pokemans, maybe
yeah, and maybe a little bit of Pokemans.
that one
But
game.
yeah, so starting out with the Steam Deck,
Oh boy. Would you like me to give an overview, Garrett?
you can start. Sure, why not?
So basically, everybody knows our household opinion on the Nintendo Switch is that it's pretty neat, but also they've been getting a little bit too big for their britches in terms of their prices and things like that. And apparently, Steam has seen this and said, I could do that. And that's pretty much what they did. If you will look it up, of course, it has its own site and everything. It's called the Steam Deck. And it's just on steamdeck.com for anyone curious. And it's really, really is interesting looking on a numerous fronts. But one of the most things of all is it's almost, I mean, I wouldn't say one for one because there's no real Joy-Con element. You can't take the controllers off. They're, on it more like a Vita or something like that. But, it is obvious at least somewhat what they're imitating to some degree, but they're still, doing a lot different is the Switch.
You know
And
what? You know what they did really well? They put the A button at the bottom.
yeah, yeah. I honestly, I don't know. I still don't understand. I will never be perplexed by why they just had to switch A and B on the Switch. It makes my life a living hell whenever I try to use my Nintendo controller for a because on Steam, they said, oh well, fuck that. I'm not gonna. If you have a Nintendo controller, we'll just switch the binds for you. But whenever I look down at my controller after I switch the binds, it'll make sense. I'll see that it says A, and then I'll press A, and then I'll do the B action, which will probably I think with Fable, it's something like swing my sword. So I've gotten in like at least 5 fights in Fable by just mispressing and then having to reload and the saving because it's an old ass game, so the saving system's all wanky and whatever. But that aside, the Steam Deck does look really great because I mean, one of the aside from the hardware, aside from the technology, one of the biggest features in my book is the library. Is the fact that if you log in with your Steam account and if you have however many games, they are saying go for it. They are saying because the thing about the Switch was always nice was the portability. Or well, that was a big selling factor, no doubt. But when it came down to games that you already had, like especially I know one of immense popularity, and of course I've talked about really enjoying is Stardew Valley on the Switch. That's like still up there on the top of the market most of the time whenever I go back and check. And thing is though, if you already own it on PC, it's sort of like one of those things where it's not an expensive game, and the game, I said the game's great, so it's not wouldn't necessarily be like a terrible thing to do to buy the game again and support a good developer. But that aside, it's still always buying a game twice is always like a very uh sort of like divisive maybe decision or just tough decision, I guess is a good way to say it, in terms of well, I already own the game, I'll just play it when I'm on, especially like of course when you're moving to PC, that's a little bit of a different argument because improved whatever yada yada. But especially with newer games, it can be very tough to get them. But if you wanted to play it all the time, which would be a little ridiculous, to get it both maybe on the Switch and on the PC. So, especially with smaller games, though, it's more viable. But my whole point of that is if it's already on your library and you have a Steam Deck, that is that problem entirely alleviated because you can play it just because you.
Yeah. Well, you would also probably think
Service
there'd
or
be.
feature or anything like that.
Oh, your microphone was cutting out. But
Oh, it was? I'm sorry.
you could also think cross saving. If
Right,
you
right,
already
right.
have a PC, because you can buy a dock for this for the Stream Deck.
Mm,
I always keep calling it a Stream Deck,
yeah,
but
Steam
it's a
Deck.
Steam Deck. You can buy a dock for this. So technically, we'll get into the specs in a minute, but technically, you could dock this thing to a keyboard, mouse, and a monitor,
Mm-hmm.
and have
They have that on the site
yeah
for sure. You know.
a fully PC. Yes, the dock is separate, but if you wanted a home PC setup, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. It is interesting as well because they will, sort of unabashedly are there showing that every or a lot of huge games that are available, if not available, but also of course available because it's everything on the Steam itself. But these games that are huge and graphically advanced and modern, um, actually playing on this prototype hardware, which is no doubt impressive because, especially in comparison to the Switch, once again, there's not, at least from what I can tell, that same sort of quality dip when it comes down to things.
Well, yeah. And I guess that's the perfect way to get into the specs of the
Hardware,
thing.
yay!
So for any spec nerds out there, again, I'm sorry if my voice sounds actually terrible.
Again, I'm
Um,
sorry if you're a spec nerd.
it's gonna have 4 cores and 8 threads of a Zen 2 architecture CPU. So that's going to be the same architecture that is in the modern consoles, your PS5 and your Xbox Series X. I believe Zen 2 is Ryzen 3000. Let me see.
I believe it.
Zen 2. Because Zen was Ryzen 1000, Zen Plus was Ryzen 2000, and Zen 2 was Ryzen 3000. Then Zen 3 is the 5000. So Ryzen 3000 based CPU, which is still great. Man, my voice cracks are going to kill me. But and you're having an RDNA 2 based GPU, which basically, for anyone who doesn't know what that means, it's the same GPU architecture that's in the new consoles, so it's going to be ray tracing capable. Of course, it's only, I don't like using the term teraflop, but it's only 2 teraflops, which is faster than a PS4,
Yep.
which is 1.84 teraflops. Take that as you will. But that just means we have a portable console that's faster than last generation. That can't be said for the Switch. The Switch
Yeah.
is still slower than your Xbox One.
This
Mind
Switch is
you,
arguably still last generation.
yes, the PS4 was a good amount faster than the launch Xbox One.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
the Switch is slower than the launch Xbox One.
Yeah.
And this 4 cores, 8 threads, like yeah, I'd say that's a pretty you for a gaming PC. That's probably the least you want. You don't want to go any lower than that. But this will still play. Again, the screen is only 720p, just like the Switch. Having that amount of power on a 720p screen, that's perfect. You're going to be running games at 60 FPS with no stutters. No stutters at all.
And for that matter, like you said about docking, it is, I would argue, it's still powerful enough to support a higher resolution, like on either a TV or TV would be a little nice, but on a regular monitor.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're running a 4 core
Yeah.
8 thread Ryzen CPU.
Yeah, and I'm on 180, I think.
You're on Zen, so it's a first gen Ryzen CPU, and it's still working for you just fine. So think about this.
Yeah.
This is 2 generations newer, 4 core 8 thread, and it's got a pretty dang nice GPU.
Pretty dang beefy.
And when I say that, I don't mean like, oh, this thing is super fast. I mean, look how small it is.
Yeah.
Like,
in a good way, that is.
and what? Yes, it's like, oh well, it's only 64 gigabytes in the first.
Ooh,
It's not an SSD either.
put up
Yes,
your money,
but
boy.
get the dock, get a portable SSD, or
Yep.
like and then have like a Steam library on there for when you're docked, and
Mm-hmm.
then put any games you want to play mobile on the 64 gigs of storage. But if you don't want to do
Yeah.
that, just buy the higher model with the SSD.
And honestly, I don't know if they've I don't think this is a feature, and it probably not is not going to be. But it would be interesting if when it was docked, you could hook it up to a computer and almost use it as an additional library as opposed to having those games installed separately on both.
Eh,
No,
I
it
don't.
would be it wouldn't be the most convenient thing ever. But I mean, especially for those who pony up for the $649, which is the highest option, which gives you 512 gigabytes. It
of,
could be
of
nice.
a very fast SSD. Mind you, it's a lot
Yeah.
extra, but it is a very fast drive. Your load times
Mm-hmm.
will be snappy. It does have micro SD card support though,
It
just
does.
like the Switch does. Yes, there's a micro SD card slot.
Quick focus, just for those curious on the prices. It starts at $400, which is really we've talked about last time with the PS4. I know we're getting a little off topic from hardware, but
PS5 is 400.
PS5, right? PS5's $400. Switch OLED is $350. We were talking about how you could literally just go to a PS5 if you already wanted to get a more powerful Switch or more
Mm-hmm.
powerful console. Period. However, if you want that more power and more portability, this is already the perfect option.
Well,
Like
granted,
aside from other features.
this thing won't be doing 4K gaming while
Well,
docked.
sure, but neither will the Switch.
Well, yes. If you want that Switch portability, this is
And
the better
slight
option.
and good, like maybe not slight more power like the OLED, but a good bit more power.
Yeah, it's a good bit more comparatively.
And for those really wanting the middle road, as you said, 650 or 649 for the 512 gigabytes, which is pretty good. It's $529 for a 256 gigabyte, and all of this, at least for our fellow Americans and those in the European Union and other more, I guess, Western places. All of this is slotted for December 2021 currently. Of course, that's most likely subject to change, but hopefully not. So if you want to get on there and pre-order, if it sounds great, then hey,
If they have any pre-orders left,
yeah, they most likely don't. But if they do, and you get one, tell us how it goes. Because
but
I mean, yeah, back to hardware. We can talk a little bit more about this phenomenon in a minute.
yeah, no, just having this mobile, this thing should be able to run Cyberpunk. Maybe not amazing, but better than the PS4. And they're, ironically enough, you want to know what the most sold
47.
game last month was on PlayStation?
Hit me.
Cyberpunk
Really?
on
I
PS4.
know that should have been obvious, but it just didn't seem that it seemed likely at all.
On PS4, the thing barely runs, and
Man,
I guess people think they fixed it enough. It runs but
like I mean, well, I won't get into my opinions on Cyberpunk. I think I've already done that. But
yeah.
even if I haven't, I'll do it later. But point of that matter being, that's definitely interesting.
And this thing's faster than a PS4, so it will probably run it better. And considering how many people bought it on PS4 last month.
Oh wait, Garrett, quick
What?
update.
Yep.
Apparently, so you can put like most things, you can put a deposit down, or well, a reservation fee, slight reservation fee for when it comes back.
Mm-hmm.
And currently, expected order availability is Q2 2022 for all of them.
Woo.
So if you want a Steam Deck, you're gonna have to wait a little longer than projected.
Wow.
Wait,
Yeah, people.
I mean
them.
I guess that's the problem, huh? Like, because I mean, what I was eventually going to spiral into, or not spiral, but get into, is the nature that this seems like sort of like a monkey's paw sort of scenario. Maybe not a monkey's paw, but like a cursed treasure, let's say. It seems too good to be true, is my point.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's just one of those things where it's a constant, just in general, especially in this sort of field where if something's that good, there has to be something else ulterior. And I guess that would be availability. It's so dang good, at least it would seem, that it's all gone. So, Steam Deck looks cool, but we're not going to get it probably for the next 8 years. Oh, man.
That's sad.
It's very sad. But I can't say I'm surprised because it is this golden offer. It's because I think, while it could be argued, logically so, that the PS5 has much, or maybe not much more power, but more power than this. And of course, it's a portable console. Of course, it's not going to have as much.
It's a good amount more
power
power.
as these console PCs, basically. However, this is that sort of, at least in my book, the perfect storm of things. It has good power, and it's not lacking. It also is portable and supports library that you already own. And it's one of those things where there's so many features that are so attractive.
Well, mind you, you might not already own it.
There's no way that it wasn't going to go out.
You might not already own it. It could be for someone who doesn't even have a PC yet, and they want to use the dock feature.
However, that is definitely, no doubt, a demographic. But I do feel that the large majority of people especially people who would order it before it's even out,
are PC gamers.
Those who said, I want to play my games, but not on a Switch and mobile. It's perfectly logical. If I had $400 to just, spend, then yeah, sure, I would. Totally. It's a no-brainer, practically. Holy crap.
That's probably a good amount of the buyers. You're right.
Yeah, no, certainly. And I guess that is almost alienating that audience that could almost use this as a PC replacement, which it's a very, because we kind of touched on the fact that PS4 or new series or new generation consoles PS5, PS5 and the new Xbox. I don't know the name. Is it Series or is it X or what is it again?
Series X. Microsoft's naming schemes are stupid.
Yeah, Microsoft's naming schemes all over the place. But point of the matter being, these consoles are getting closer and closer to PC, especially with a console like the Steam Deck that is almost marketing itself as, hey, if you dock this, you can use it as a PC. Peripherals and all, it's becoming more and more, that's almost becoming the angle that consoles are taking, which will be interesting because consoles are becoming more and more like pre-built, except with a brand name.
And a regulated operating system.
Right, exactly.
You still, sadly, in terms of gaming, they're getting closer to PCs, but they're not getting to that, I can do my homework and then immediately boot up Cyberpunk.
Yeah, it is. It's just one of those things where it's a personal computer for a reason as opposed to a console.
Yep. Yeah, and we're not paying $60 a year for online gaming, but
that is another thing.
Or Nintendo, $20 a year,
right? Which
is debatably what?
Right. Debatably. Sorry.
Well, no, debatably, the I've heard a lot of people saying that Switch Online is getting worse, despite it being paid.
Epic. Yeah, we'll get into our growing Nintendo hate. How do you say? I mean, hate voter is the common term, but just dislike. You could just say to keep it more classy.
I don't know, man.
However,
I must really dislike Nintendo recently.
Another. But point of that matter being, Steam Deck. Well, on terms of those online fees, I haven't seen shit in terms of them trying to force you to pay money to get online.
Well, they're not going to.
Once again, that's just huge. I know they're not going to, because if they did, they would crash and burn.
But they literally can't. They literally can't because they would undermine their own business. Because they said you could load Windows on it. So if SteamOS was like, you got to pay to play online, nothing's stopping anyone from loading Windows on it and using big screen mode on Steam.
Yeah. No, it is. I'm not saying that it is possible. Honestly, I'm almost arguing that it's impossible, more or less. And that's what makes it even better to the fact where online fees have become more and more of a nuisance, especially with Nintendo trying to up their price. And Steam Deck just literally doesn't. It just doesn't happen. And I mean, once again, same portability, higher power. It's still like it's becoming like, I know it's not, because Nintendo always has that ace in the hole, which is Nintendo games. And it's almost shameful to some degree, because while it's never bad to have a backup plan, like in anything, it's not like, it's a good idea. It's a good thing to have. Like, I'm not gonna say, oh, fuck those guys for making their games and having them be good. But to solely rely on the fact that you have household names in your belt instead of trying to push quality as a whole, it just feels scummy.
Well, that's all they're doing recently.
It is. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we've probably said it like 5 times now, but it entirely is what they're doing. They're just relying too much on, they're putting all their eggs in one basket.
Like, okay,
they say, hey, we have your classic games.
My console sucks.
We're not going to let them go.
Where else are you going to play Zelda?
It's just, I know, it's just like it's a shame, really, because there's no way, I don't think there's any way that Nintendo will ever let their games go. And I don't necessarily blame them, but I won't deny the fact that it would be better if they did.
I think they'd make a lot of money on different platforms.
Oh, they certainly would. But I guess they figure that the money they're making, sort of strong-arming people into buying consoles, is more significant.
It sells the consoles.
It does. That's what I'm saying. It's a strong arm.
Like, I have a friend
I want to play this game. Oh shit! I can't.
I have a friend who literally he said this yesterday. Oh yeah, it's a $300 box that I can play Pokemon on. I'm gonna buy it. And it's like,
this is sad.
Which
I mean, it's not sad. I would do the same thing if I picked up the Switch because I thought the new Zelda looked really cool.
However,
like
Pokemon,
half of America.
Just me, but Pokemon Sword and Shield is debatably a terrible game. But maybe not terrible. I'm over exaggerating, but there was. I mean,
we can talk about that with Pokemon games, Garrett.
I know, Ben, but like, look. You have games that look like Breath of the Wild, and then you release Pokemon, and then you have frame stuttering, and then you have like misrendered weather scenes, and then you have it's just it could have been better. And the thing about Nintendo fanboys is like
it definitely could have been better.
They will let Nintendo give them anything. They'll just be like, "Oh, hey, here's this. We could have done better. We could have, but $60, please."
Yeah, I mean, that is in general, you could really list that as a danger from, or not as a danger really, but as a detriment to being a fan of something, is that you can find yourself getting too into it, and that'll mean that and I don't really blame people for taking this mindset, but it's not a good one to take, to the note where, oh yes, I like this. They released something that isn't as good, but I still like it. And it's, well, don't get me wrong. I think something that your argument could be taken as, and I'm not saying I don't see it this way, don't get me wrong, but it could be taken as, fuck you for liking that. And I think that's like, a stupid argument. No offense. If that is I don't think it is your argument.
No, let me clarify then.
I know. Yeah.
Real quick. I'm not saying F you for liking Pokemon. However, Nintendo has at least shown, again, not the same developer team, what the Switch can do with games like Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey. They've shown what this hardware can do. Then you wait this long for a Pokemon game.
Right.
And then you get a Pokemon game, and it's just like, oh, okay, it's sunny. I'm going to run into this field. Okay, now it's raining, and I couldn't see that 2 steps ago. Or, there's the Onix. Oh, I'm going to go. Oh, and then it just de-rendered. Or Pokemon running at like 15 frames per second.
I will,
Pokemon Legends, however, if you've ever seen the trailer, it looks like they're tackling that.
Trying.
They're trying on that. I like Pokemon. Okay, I'm not gonna say,
Yeah, no, I know.
but
But
it maybe it's
the
because I'm
quality drop is
older.
noticeable.
Maybe it's because I'm older that I'm just seeing like, oh boy, it's the same thing, but again, with a couple new ones.
I mean, it is. I guess to hark on 2 points. One, this reflects much more on the company than it does the fans. I guess that's like at the end of the day what we're trying to say.
I'm not gonna. I will say, however, Nintendo will keep doing this.
Right. As long as the fans support, and it's not their fault per se. And I don't think, personally, and I think Garrett feels the same, is that if you like something, even if it's bad, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, mind you, I wanted
or
Sword
even
and
if
Shield
people say it's bad, should I say?
because I played Sword. I wanted it to be good, man.
Yeah,
But like then it's
mean-
just like, oh, I want to get Bulbasaur. Sorry, Bulbasaur is in the expansion pass.
yeah.
What?
That's pretty stupid.
Paid DLC
honestly,
in a
expansion
Pokemon game.
passes. We'll man, we need to tackle that another time. But
Locking Pokemon
Yeah.
behind a paywall is cringe. I don't care if you love the game or not. They made you pay to get Bulbasaur. And people hacked Bulbasaur in the game and said, look guys, I have Bulbasaur. Why is he here in the game? Because he's not in base game. He's in the expansion pass.
yeah. Let's
It's just shady business practices.
Yeah.
And Nintendo fans are just like, no, Nintendo can do nothing wrong. Not all Nintendo fans, mind you,
Sure,
but there are
right.
the minority is the loudest when it comes to this stuff.
Let's
And it's just like, no.
let's rein it in real quick.
All right, but
Back to the Steam
real
Deck.
quick, I just think
Please.
Pokemon didn't look as good as it could have. It didn't do as good as it could have.
Yeah. But we're gonna talk about a little bit more about Pokemon in a minute. And I do have some points I would like to make. But there's a couple other things that I think we should say about the Steam Deck before we stop.
All right.
I guess because this I think we've touched on most of the important points. It's dockable. It's a PC practically, or well, maybe not a high-end PC, but a pretty good NPC, it can be used as, and as a Steam library. It's once again, and is sold out. But aside from that, those are the real main things. But I know I have one little gripe so far. But is there anything else you want to touch on?
For the Steam Deck, I mean, if I got one, I would be loading Windows on it.
Yes. Oh, yes. That was something we said we would touch on, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, I mentioned it.
No. Operating systems in general, something important to note, sort of stemming back to a conversation we had last week, was that Steam OS is Linux-based.
Yes.
And as we've talked about, in terms of Windows 11 especially, having a Linux OS that can easily run Steam games could change some people's OS usage.
I think I mentioned, maybe if it was last week or the week before, that the only thing stopping me from using Linux as a main daily operating system is my Steam game support.
Yeah, and Steam is pretty blatantly stating that we're going to make this work for Linux.
Because if it works on Steam OS, it will work on just if Steam OS is Linux based, if they get it working on Steam OS, it's going to work on Linux. It's not.
Yeah. At least hope.
Yeah. But Steam has already been working on Linux game support for a while, so it's not like they're just going to be like, haha, you have to get Steam OS if you want Linux support. No, they're not going to do that. They're just not.
Steam is in terms of companies, I will say, Steam's coming out on top on a lot of in terms of at least consumer friendliness, and quite possibly a couple other categories. Steam is currently top dog in my book.
That because they know they're like, people are going to like that we do this, and they are going to give us money because we do this.
Mm-hmm. You'd like to hope there, I mean, while it probably is not true, you'd like to hope there is at least some goodwill behind it, but largely it probably is profits. But, aside from...
Well, I remember, what company was it?
Oh, boy, here we go.
I think,
no idea.
It was either Nintendo. I know Sony said it at one point, but just the whole thing about, like, our users will never pay for online.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, of course.
I know the Sony CEO during the PS3 era said that online play is a basic human right.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is honestly just touching on the way people feel as opposed to games as a whole. If you promise something, that's fine. But if you promise something, you better make sure you actually hold to it, because and I think that's like really an issue with a lot of that's the issue a lot of people take with new games. Like that's almost entirely the issue with Cyberpunk, at least in terms of PS4, is the fact that they promise, and then because it's okay to say, if you say, we might make you pay for online, that'll get people mad, but at least it won't get people as mad when you fail to actually hold to your word.
Yeah.
It's a lot of like, because it also establishes a lack of trust. And to have a lack of trust is to, having your audience distrust you will essentially make it much harder to sell. Just on the note that, oh yeah, well, these guys said that, they said that they're not gonna, overcharge for this, or this will run on that. But last time when they said that, they didn't do it. It incepts doubt into your consumer, and incepting doubt, even if you are trying to do better, will still at least leave a couple people, if not a lot of people, questioning whether or not you can actually be trusted.
Granted, I should say the Sony CEO that said like online gaming is a right or something is not the current CEO anymore.
Yeah, right. But it's still, it's not, maybe, I wouldn't necessarily pin this on him, but it is still, Sony's still probably, I mean, you can, well, third parties, like ourselves to some degree, would, try to look, well, some people may try to look for information, is what I'm trying to say. Most people will usually not, and just assume that, oh, Sony said this at one point, even if they've changed. Well, they still said that, so that still kind of makes them a dick.
Yeah, it. Also, I apologize if any audio just came through my computer. I kind of forgot that.
Right.
I clicked on something by accident. I clicked on a YouTube video.
Good job. I didn't hear it. So.
Well, you wouldn't hear it, but the video definitely did. Besides the point. If you want to rehash what you said, but I don't know how loud it was. However,
I don't even remember.
No, yeah, one person said it. I mean, they're speaking for the company.
Right? Yeah, that.
They're speaking for the company, and I honestly think that I don't like paying for online in general, because people will defend it. And they'll just be like, oh, well, it keeps the servers running. It keeps it. It doesn't. Because, like, when you boot up a game, they're not using Xbox servers. They're using their own. So, it doesn't. It doesn't. But that's besides the point. We're not talking about paid subscription online right now. Well... have you spoken your piece on
one more?
One more. All right, go ahead.
I screamed at this you personally, and we've kind of dismissed my doubts a little. I still don't like the trackpads. I'm gonna be honest. I don't like the trackpads.
You're cringe.
I don't like. I know. I don't like the way the I don't like how the D-pad. I still don't understand. Why can't they just be normal? Just like
you're cringe.
No. Why don't they just put the D-pad and the ABXY where they're supposed to be. Is it that hard?
Look, man, it looks unorthodox, but from what people are saying, it's pretty easy to get used to.
Yeah, I know, but why? Why can't you just do that?
And the touchpads, the square touchpads, I
Square
heard work
trackpad is
really
weird.
well.
It's a trackpad though. Like,
But for games that don't have controller support, I heard they work really well.
maybe. Technically, we won't know until it's released, but those are my two. The controls seem a little weird. I don't doubt that they can be adjusted to. I definitely don't. But that's my big gripe, and that should technically at least say something. I mean, aside from the fact that they're all sold out until practically a year from now, should also say something. But fact of the matter is, looks pretty good. You won't be able to get your hands on it till next summer.
Yeah. I mean, if I was in the market for it, I just don't know if I am. If I
Sure.
didn't already have a PC, maybe
Right.
maybe $400 isn't bad. I just don't see myself using it that often.
Yeah, I guess that's
But do I think it's cool? Yeah, I think it's
yeah,
freaking
dude.
awesome.
Freaking awesome.
I think it's
You
freaking
know,
cool, dude. I think it's freaking cool,
one
dude.
one quick little thing. It has I think it's Type C as well, which is nice.
Oh yeah, it's got USB-C, which is pretty epic. So that's because that's the best charger right now.
Yeah, pretty much.
It is the superior cable.
It's pretty epic. I like it.
Um, I think the dock said it was going to have DisplayPort, but even then, USB-C can run displays.
Mm-hmm.
So
Pretty nice.
But I guess we could branch into our amiibo topic if we want to.
Yay! Oh, yeah, sure.
And again, I want to rehash. If anyone is thinking that I my opinion on Pokemon Sword and Shield is just like I hate you for liking that. my voice cracks are killing me. Okay.
Bye.
Um again, I really wanted to like Pokemon Sword and Shield. And if you like it, you know,
Like
all
me,
yours,
I
man.
kind of like it.
But I'm
Yeah,
gonna have an opinion that I just think that if I'm paying $60 for it, and so are a ton of other people, I think we just deserved better.
I don't think that's unfair. I don't think that. Yeah.
I'll say the same thing. I really liked Pokemon Let's Go, but I hated the catching mechanic. I hated how there was no wild Pokemon battles. If they just put wild Pokemon battles, I think that game would have been stellar. But because I thought the art style fit really well, you know. I'm a shut up if my voice keeps cracking.
Loser. Yeah. So, would you like to lead this topic, or do you want me to? I can lead it if you
I
want.
just drank some water. Well, Skyward Sword. We're gonna go into amiibos, but apparently
Yay,
Skyward
Skyward
Sword has
Sword.
a $25 amiibo
First
that
off, wow.
that
Might I
locks behind like that a feature in Skyward Sword of flying to different locations without having to go to a certain place to fly is locked behind a $25 amiibo. So a quality of life feature is locked behind a $25 amiibo.
Yeah.
That's that brings your for all the features of your game, that brings your game to what is that, $85 spent on the game.
Yeah. I mean,
That's
it's a very, it honestly just feels really weird. Like, I think that's the best way I can put it, because it's it's just one of those things where it doesn't make sense. Just to be frank, like it doesn't even really compute with me to the fact that it's, because in most games, um there's not many games, I guess, really. I mean, I guess, one of the comparisons could be older Pokemon with like moves like fly.
Yep.
That was kind of just in the game.
They're locking Pokemon Fly mechanic behind a $25 paywall.
And a lot of other games. I mean, in the modern, like, we're not. In general, most games where you're traveling between different islands or worlds or anything like that will usually have a port or dock mechanic. And I think that's perfectly fair. I think it's okay. I think there's games like No Man's Sky where you can call your ship to you, and I think that's good. And of course, if the islands are small, like in Sea of Thieves, you're just docked and your ship's remains static after you anchor it. It's like fine, but it's so weird because if they didn't, even if they didn't just add it, it would be fine. Like if they just didn't have it, I think that would be perfectly fine. Because while it's a nice feature, it certainly is, beneficial in terms of, I guess, timing more than anything else. It's just one of those things where, why would you bother at that point? Because sure, it might be a pain to walk all the way back to wherever the dock is, but is it 25 real world dollars of pain?
Well, because it's a special amiibo.
It's just crazy, man. Because like, if you really like Zelda that much, I guess at the end of the day, and you wanted to buy that amiibo, go right ahead.
Hey, man, some people would say it's worth $25.
It's not. It's not. No, it's not. It's like flat. Like look, I'm not trying to take that argument that if you think, well, no, I am actually. If you think this is a good idea, you're stupid. It's $25.
I was watching a video where I initially heard about this. I think it was called like Skyward Sword with a side of salt or something like that. Skyward Sword HD with a side of salt. And it was so funny because he had us for the entire video until the end. He said, "You know what's crazy? I didn't even buy it. All this gameplay that you're seeing of HD Skyward Sword, it's me playing an emulator with upscaled to HD and all of the quality of life features in the HD game added in.
Yeah.
And I'm playing it with my and here's the kicker: I'm playing it with my Wiimote and nunchuck that don't have drift. 11 years later.
Yeah.
Oof.
Got Oof. Pretty much.
That's just a crazy thing because like what would you call a remake or a remaster? This is literally just we up the graphics using technology that's been in emulators for who knows how long, and we made a couple quality of life, but one of them's behind a $25 paywall. And mind you, try getting your hands on said amiibo. There's scalpers.
On Amazon. Yeah, I'm looking on Amazon, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if this comes with the game, but it doesn't look like it does, and it's $101.
Wait, the what?
The amiibo.
Oh my gosh, no way.
Yeah. I don't like I almost certainly feel like there's something I'm missing with this. But if it's $101,
means people scalped the amiibo. It means people might have just scalped the amiibo.
Yeah, no. The prices are consistently near 100. Like what the fuck might I add?
That's kind of wacky.
I mean, all that's going to happen now, at least I would hope, is that these things are not going to sell. But I'm probably wrong. People are going to, oh my goodness. So, while we were arguing on a $85 game, it turns out in the background it was actually a $160 game. So, first off, sorry for the inaccuracy. And second off, sorry if you actually buy it. But, jeez, man, what the hell?
I mentioned this to you earlier. Skyward Sword was released on the Wii U eShop for $20.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, one of the things that really irks me in terms of, because I know we talked about false promises and things like that, and that's, a lot of the time that can get under people's skin. I personally, most of the time, it usually does. I mean, especially with stuff like Cyberpunk, didn't really affect me, and it's still scummy. but it's like, they could have projected it, they could have told people, but I can kind of understand it. I don't think it's good by any means, but I'm not gonna. In the end of the day, I'm not gonna use it to judge the game. However, something I will use to judge a developer, especially, and maybe a game, is just weird, like really weird inconveniences. Because especially stuff like that, it feels so pointless. It's so pointless, and yet $25, and well, now $100, but it's so utterly inconsequential in the long run, and yet you're going to charge me $25. I get it. There is also a figure, but I mean, do you really expect maximum quality from an amiibo? It's that middle ground where you're getting screwed over both ways somehow. It's not like the best of both worlds, it's somehow the worst. You're getting a low quality figurine for probably too high of a price, and you're getting a feature that either A, should have already been in the game, or B, should just be left out of the game entirely.
Well, a lot of people said one of their big problems with the original was that wasn't a thing.
Really? Well,
From what I saw.
That almost just feels like a predatory business tactic then. Just to say, oh yeah, people really wanted this feature in the game for $25 up, and you can man, what the hell? It's because personally, I don't know. While I can kind of understand, in games, as said, I guess most of the time games that I've played that have that same kind of travel mechanic where you either dock on a planet or dock on a whatever, or on an island or something like that. They will usually have either the island will be small enough to walk across in half a minute, or there's fast travel, or there's ways to bring your ship closer to you, or stuff like that. And I guess without any of that, it would be pretty dang annoying to have to drag yourself all the way back after you've done and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I can kind of see where it would be nice, but it's just once again, if you really wanted to add it to the game, you could have just added it to the game. Especially, as said, $20. $20 it was going for, and now you've done
25.
Yeah, 20. Well, the amiibo. I was talking about the game on the Wii shop.
Yeah, it was 20. It released $20. It released for like 50, I think, on the Wii.
Mm-hmm.
$20 on Wii U.
Mm-hmm.
And granted, when they did like Majora's Mask HD and like Ocarina of Time,
mm-hmm.
those came out with a $10 price cut from the original.
Yeah, they've just. It's hard to argue on behalf of Nintendo when you look at stuff, at least like this, to the point where it just almost seems as if it's one of those things where it feels like such a minor thing. While it could make a big difference in the long run, and I understand a lot of people really wanted it in the game, it's such a minor detail, and you're already charging people $60.
Mm-hmm.
And yet you want 25 more. Let's say because they've done. I assume they've done graphical improvements because they put HD in the title. Of course, that's more of a buzzword than anything else. But
let me look at something real quick. Keep talking.
It's basically, you can assume they did graphical improvements. That's real nice. That's real cool.
Well, nothing more than an emulator could do.
Right. But a lot of the time, when games have a graphical overhaul, people will usually release it. I mean, depending on how good they are, I guess. We'll release it for a standard price. A lot of the time people will try to release it at the game's original price or something like that. But especially when something's ported to a newer thing, like when Fallout 4 made it to PC, they put in higher resolution textures for free. And I thought that was a I thought that was decent. I'm not sure how good those textures were, mind you, but the point stands. It didn't. It obviously, if it cost them a lot of money to put those textures in, they wouldn't have released them for free. And this is by no means really like that much of, as you said, if it's attainable on an emulator, there's no way it's that difficult.
And I did look. The game does run at 1080p 60 FPS when docked, but
Fun.
when you look at what the game looks like, it better run at 1080p 60 FPS.
Yeah,
Like,
because
no offense to the game, obviously we want to keep the
right,
same style. You know, we don't want to
of course.
have to rework everything. But it does just look like, okay, we're running the same game, but at a higher resolution.
Yep.
I'm sure there will be people to defend that, like, oh no, it's zoom in on that chair. Look, it's like, okay, you know, maybe it is a little, maybe they did a little bit more than just, you know, but still, shadows lower their resolution in handheld mode, draw distance, frame rate is constantly at 60 FPS. Okay, cool, good. That should be the bare minimum.
Yeah,
But
I
as
guess
we
that's my
know, games like Hyrule Warriors are like at a stuttery 30 FPS. So I mean, I guess 60 FPS on the Switch isn't the bare minimum.
yeah. I do think as well it should be maybe not noted, but should be acknowledged that but the point of what I was saying was the fact that if companies are, at least sometimes, willing to release these graphical enhancements for free, it shouldn't be that costly, and you probably shouldn't be reasonably hike the price that much. And however, you hike the price that much, you could technically, if you really thought it was worth $25, you probably could justifiably say, yeah, $25, that's in the base game. Because you're already charging $24 more dollars than it should be worth.
Mm-hmm.
At least more or less.
You would think, but
But
I'm not gonna say all Nintendo fans. I could call myself a Nintendo fan, but there are some hardcore fans who will buy it anyway, and like, or some people will buy it anyway despite knowing that it's a ripoff, and then there's the people who will buy it and refuse that it's a ripoff.
yeah,
Same with like the hard, whether it be the Switch OLED or literally anything. I don't know. I just think looking at a game company like there's some angel, it just isn't the right way to think about it. They want your money, man. It's like they don't owe you anything.
yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, it's cringe. It's
Yeah, it's stupid.
the
I can't argue
game. The
with that.
game looks really fun, but it's like
It's
$60. It came out in
rather overpriced.
2011. There were, I was so surprised that all the gameplay that I watched was from an emulator.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, we could move on to Pokemon. Honestly, I'm gonna be honest. My head's starting to hurt and my voice keeps cracking, and it's kind of embarrassing. So,
I mean, if we wanna cut here, we can always talk about Pokemon next time.
yeah, we might as well. I'm just,
Well,
mm.
I hope it was entertaining to hear me rant practically.
Yeah. And again, anyone, if you like Pokemon or you like Skyward Sword, good man. Like more power to
Yeah,
you.
go for it, man. It's at the end of the day, it's what you like. But you can, it never really hurts to acknowledge
Flaws.
basically the truth. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, hopefully you guys liked it. Hopefully you guys
Yeah.
liked the fact that I
Hopefully you guys liked and subscribed.
like and subscribe and
Uh,
then maybe